Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we're going to be discussing RTD's latest comments on the future of Doctor Who and the war between the land and the sea, and we're going to be talking a little bit about tariffs and how they might impact the Disney deal moving forwards. All that and more coming up, but before we get into it, be sure to give a like if you're new and subscribe. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers and any support would be greatly appreciated. We do regular Doctor Who content here on the channel. But with that said, let's get right into it. So recently, a channel called The Direct Extras did an interview with Russell T Davies. I'm not jealous at all. And they asked Russell the question, what's going on with the future of Doctor Who? And this was his response.
So I've got to ask as well, obviously we've got 8 exciting weeks of season 2 coming up, and obviously I'm sure it's going for plenty of fun, but I've got to ask about what comes beyond that. So obviously we know decisions still to come on season 3, all of that. Do you have any plans for a Christmas special this year? And can you give any updates on the war between the land and the sea?
No updates on Doctor Who, just as a wait and see. Conversations happening, obviously. And the war between the land and the sea, we just had a big edit onto it. That's looking so magnificent. It's so different to what people are expecting. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It contains some of the most epic stuff we've ever shot in Cardiff. It's really beautiful. And we've got Russell Tovey in the lead. It's a very different show. It's a bit older than Doctor Who. Not too old. It's not as old as Torchwood went. It's kind of straddling the sort of 8 o'clock audience, I would say, instead of 7 o'clock. Or opposed to 9 o'clock. Or any time of the day, of course, on streaming. But it's lovely. We are delighted with it. It's like we haven't actually shown Russell or Gugu any episodes yet, and it's about time we need to sit down and do that with them, because it's wonderful.
I'm curious, when do you think fans will be seeing that? Do you have any idea of that yet, or is that still...
Very, very specific idea, and you're not getting that out of me, Sam.
Well, I have to try.
I know exactly when, but because all of our effects edits are aiming for that date, but don't worry.
So there you go. So a few things there. Obviously, he's asked about Christmas special specifically and the future of Doctor Who, and he kind of, dodges the question. He says, no updates on Doctor Who yet. Now, it's noteworthy that the question opens with, we've got 8 exciting weeks to go of Doctor Who. And now this podcast was only released 4 days ago, but we can infer from that this means that this was recorded prior to the release of any of Season 2. So this would have been around, a similar time to kind of the premiere, where he talked a little bit about, Doctor Who being like Robin Hood and, it can live forever kind of thing. I will say that this is decidedly a bit different from what he said before. Maybe I'm imagining things, but he said that, no conversations were happening, no decision will be made until after Season 3. And then here he says conversations are happening prior to Season 2's broadcast. So that's interesting. Obviously, I highly doubt that there will be a Christmas special if, they haven't filmed anything yet and Ncuti Gatwa is doing a play for the next few months. I just don't see how that can really be done. Perhaps that was the secret commission that he was talking about back in July. Maybe that was filmed as part of the Season 2 block, but I somehow doubt it. I feel like we would have seen something about that by now. As for War Between the Land and the Sea, it's very interesting that it's darker, but not quite Torchwood level. He's saying he's aiming for that 8, 9 o'clock kind of release demographic, which is interesting. I will be honest, I wasn't particularly excited for the War Between the Land and the Sea, but after seeing Lucky Day and seeing Kate kind of go over the edge, it's gotten me a lot more optimistic for that show. I think that if that's where they go with it, with kind of a Kate going rogue, I can definitely see that being a fun show for sure. And I just hope that it delivers. But yeah, obviously he says that he knows exactly when it's airing, but he can't say. Last I remember, they did say late 2025. I heard around December, so we'll see if that comes to pass. Be a bit weird if that was the replacement for the Doctor Who Christmas special, but I guess it kind of makes some sort of sense. That's the Doctor Who airing over the festive period, I suppose. But we have a bigger update with regards to the future of Doctor Who coming from a rather unlikely source. Now, I've managed to avoid mentioning this man pretty much for the entire existence of my channel, I'm pretty sure, other than, I guess, when that Robertson guy was in the Jodie Whittaker era. But President Donald Trump has announced 100% tariffs on movies, quote, coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. I'll read you the full quote just to give context, but I'm going to explain why this might impact Doctor Who. The movie industry in America is dying a very fast death. Other countries are offering all sorts of incentive to draw our filmmakers and studios from the United States, Hollywood, and many other areas within the USA are being devastated. This is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Therefore, I am authorizing the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin the process of instituting 100% tariffs on any and all movies coming into our country from foreign lands. We want movies made in America again. This, of course, doesn't make any sense for a variety of reasons. For one thing, even though American market share has declined, American market share over the total film industry still reaches around 70%, so they still have more than a controlling stake in the total world film industry, for one. For two, due to the interconnected nature of the world and the nature of films that take place across the world, many American companies will film outside the USA. For example, the recent Avengers Doomsday is doing some filming in the UK, as was The Batman was filmed in Scotland, I believe. So what this effectively means, as far as I can tell, and again, I'm not an expert, is effectively any film being made outside the US, even if it's being funded or co-funded by an American company, effectively doubles in production costs, because obviously they now have to deal with this 100% tariff. And this is relevant to Doctor Who, of course, because Doctor Who is currently in a co-funding partnership with Disney. Now, admittedly, Trump only references movies here, but of course, other places have said, what about TV shows? Does this include TV shows? BBC News kind of speculated that this would include TV shows as well. And if it does include TV shows, then I think that's pretty much the final nail in the coffin of the Disney deal. Why would Disney risk having to spend double on Doctor Who, especially if they're not 100% sure on it? It doesn't make any sense. But even if not, even if this does only impact the movie business, that means that effectively all of Disney's production costs for every movie that they make effectively double. So at that point, why would you divert funds into a co-production for a TV show that you don't fully own? Does that make sense? Effectively, this would probably spell the end of the Disney Doctor Who deal definitively, point blank. And part of me wonders if market volatility is part of the reason why they haven't made a decision on whether to renew the deal or not, at least not, officially. Because if you were Disney or if you were any other company, would you take the risk of entering or re-entering a co-funding agreement with a foreign country when you could be potentially hit with a tariff that you don't even know, how it's going to affect things? I mean, what does he mean by films made in America? Does he mean all American casts? Does he mean it has to all be filmed in America? We don't fully know. And to me, it seems completely unworkable and impossible to implement. But so do most of the tariffs, frankly. But yeah, this is obviously a much wider issue than Doctor Who. Basically any movie that you like seeing will effectively be a lot more expensive to make, and therefore, we might be seeing further delays to anything that you might want to see. For example, as I said, the recent Avengers is filming parts of the UK. So it's all just a bit of an absolute mess. But yeah, if this goes through, it will effectively, definitively mark the end of the Doctor Who Disney relationship. I just don't see a scenario where Disney want to run the risk of continuing this deal if they're hit with 100% tariffs on it. I just don't think they will continue it. I'm probably going to get accused of being too political in this video, but I've tried not to mention the guy for ages, but this might actually have an effect on Doctor Who, so I kind of have to mention the tariffs in relation to Doctor Who. And this is concerning as well because obviously the UK film and TV industry is already kind of struggling at the moment. It's one of our biggest exports, but it's been chronically underfunded. And this would effectively also mean that even if Disney pull out, the option of going with another American co-funding partner would also basically be off the table, because I don't see, for example, Amazon or Apple or Netflix or whoever wanting to take the risk for the same reasons as Disney. You don't want 100% tariffs, you don't want to double your production costs, so they just won't do international partnerships, which is particularly worrisome for Netflix because some of their biggest shows are made outside of the US. Squid Game, for example, is massive, and it's not a US show. And even Sex Education, Ncuti Gatwa's own Sex Education, was largely filmed in the UK, despite obviously being, very much Americanized. It was still a kind of British setting. So this will have, if this goes through, ramifications not only on Doctor Who, but the rest of the TV and film industry, of course. But this could be very bad for Doctor Who specifically, because as we've explained before, the BBC already didn't really want to fund Doctor Who on their own last time. That's why they reached out to international co-funding partners, and now they might not have that option moving forwards. And they not only will not have that option for Doctor Who, but also anything else that's a co-production with an American company, which of course is quite a bit. But yeah, that's some of my thoughts on that. In conclusion, none of it makes any sense, but chances are Disney will probably drop out due to the uncertainty and market volatility. That's kind of my prediction. If they haven't already decided, this will definitely be the deciding factor, I think. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. That was a depressing video, wasn't it? I don't mean for it to be depressing, but it's just kind of the reality of the situation, and I have to be honest about it. Let me know what you guys think. Comment down below your thoughts. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.